this video I want to show you how I used a public domain image which is from the 1920s-ish, I believe. Might be older. It's a Japanese watercolour of a sunset with bamboo, and I want to upgrade it slightly and give it a retro sunset sort of look, but I want to maintain the rest of the image which I like the layout of. To basically go from this to this. Now, if you've not been here before, my name's Jane Willingale of Silver Zone Printables, and I create videos for this channel around low content publishing and digital printables for Etsy and similar platforms. And if that's the kind of thing that interests you, then click on the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified when I upload more videos like this. And if you find this video helpful, then please do click on the like button to help this video get seen and help me grow this channel. That would be very much appreciated. So there's several processes involved in doing this. One is to remove the bits I don't want, like the Japanese characters. The other is to separate out the layers of the different parts of the image. So we'll work through most of those as we go. First off, I'm going to duplicate the background so that I maintain the original should I need to go back, and to do that I press Ctrl J. That gives me a duplicate, and I'll just rename the background as original so I know which one's which. It's locked anyway, so I can't really do any damage, and I will turn it off so it doesn't confuse things. Next job is to take out the bits I don't want. So across here on the left hand side you have the in painting brush tool under this icon. All of these tools do a similar thing in that they will heal, remove bits, patch, depending on what you actually want to achieve. For this job I want to use the in painting tool, and I will make the brush size slightly larger by using the right hand square bracket key. And I'll click on the right image and then just drag the brush over the bit I want to remove. Now it's given me a couple of bits I don't want, so I just go back and take those out as well. And then we'll take out the Japanese characters. And it does sometimes duplicate the content that is beside it, so sometimes you have to be a little bit more persistent and just keep going over the same bits. Now it's left me with an extra leaf, which I don't actually mind because it still looks quite natural as if it's part of the original picture. Next thing I want to do is separate out the sunset or the sun itself from the rest of the image so that I have separate layers. And to do that I will go up to the selection brush tool, choose that, make the brush size somewhat bigger, and just draw around the sun. Now it's not going to make a perfect job of it first time, but it will get most of it, and I will take the brush size down and do a bit more. If I hold Alt I can squeeze that in from the outside, and by switching between the Alt and not, by pressing Alt I can use the outside, and by turning Alt off I can select from the inside. I eventually cover all the bits I want to select. So I just paused the video a bit while I selected some of the tighter sections which were a little bit fiddly. It didn't take that long. The next thing I'm going to do is copy that, so that's Ctrl C, and then paste it again to a new layer. And if I turn the background layer off, you can see that it's pulled out this section of the sun. And although there's a couple of bits I've missed, that doesn't really matter because you'll see when the end result that you won't actually see that bit anyway. So now I'm going to reverse the selection by pressing Ctrl Shift I. So now everything outside of the sun is selected, and I'm going to copy and paste that to a new layer as well. And I will just go back and call the one that was the sun, so I know which layer is which. And this is a good practice to get into if you do a lot of this kind of work. Okay, so we'll just turn those back on so we can see where we are. And if I turn off the whole of the background, you can see that the picture looks the same, which means I have got both of them. If I turn the sun off, you can see the outline. Turn the sun back on and turn the background off, you can see the sun. So I have separated the two into two new layers. I will now turn off the selections by pressing Ctrl D. Now I want to give a retro sun effect here. So I'm going to pull in an image that I want to use for reference for the colours, which is this one. So I brought in this image of a retro sunset, which I want to use as reference for the colours. So more or less get the same sort of size, and I'll just park that to one side for now, because we're not going to use that actual image for anything else other than the colours. Next thing I will do is draw an ellipse, and I use the ellipse tool for that, and if I hold shift I keep the scale. Again, draw it to roughly the size of the existing sun, and turn the opacity down on that so that I can see my references underneath. And I want it to be slightly smaller than the existing one, and you'll see why once I've drawn the boxes for the colours. Okay. Now I need to draw these lines, so they will be rectangular boxes, and I'll just use one as a reference for, one of the reference for the height, and I'll draw one across. Let's put that back in. If I lock that, it won't keep moving. So I'll set this one across the middle, and then I'm going to duplicate that. So I'm going to copy, Control C, paste, Control V, and then move it down so it's quite close but slightly lower. And if I press Control J, it will copy it and paste it again, and again drag it slightly further down. And you'll see as I press Control J again, it will keep moving it. I don't actually want it to go to the right, so we'll just move it to the left. And if I copy it down another 4 or 5, I can then just move them up to the top. Didn't quite do enough. Okay. And if I select all of those, and if I use the distribution tool and alignment tool at the top here, and first of all center them all so that they are all grouped in a line, and then choose the align vertically, space vertically on the right hand side, and it has now spaced them all out evenly. And just move it slightly further to the right. Now I'm going to colour each one of these according to my colour reference over here, and I'll turn the colours back up for that. So the first one, I will select the box, choose the colour picker tool, and then click on the teal colour, and then choose the next one, use the colour picker tool and select the green, and I think I will use 2 each time as I go up. To spread the colours out. Oops. Okay, that's the range of colours set. Now I don't need this image as a reference anymore, so I can turn that off. And I'm now going to move these colours slightly closer together by making the boxes slightly bigger. Just drag it down slightly. And then move the bottom one up. Choose them all again and once more space them out vertically. And it's chosen an extra layer. Let's turn that off. There we go. Okay, so they're all slightly closer together, which is better. The next thing I'm going to do is blend the colours so they are more of a gradient than these solid lines. And I don't particularly want a grey, I think I'll have a better green. So if we select each one, and I'll just zoom in so we can see the colours a bit better than that. And over here on the right hand side we can use the sliders to change the greens, change the colours to match up or down the ones above and below. So in this instance I'm going to go slightly more towards the blue. The next one I'm going to make slightly greener, and so on until I get a better blend of colours. Okay, I've played around with each one of those horizontal lines and I'm happier with the blend of colours there. So the next thing to do is to group them all together and create a mask so that they become part of the circular shape. So first of all we'll turn the lock off on the circle, and the next thing we'll do is we'll pull that group into the circle shape like so. So that now becomes clipped by the circle, and I can adjust the size of that slightly so that it fits within the hole that's left by the original sun. And there is one other thing I would like to do to it, and that is to add a slightly grungy look across the top, as you often see in a lot of the retro images. To do that we need to use one of the brush effects, and I have several sprays and splatters and texture brushes, spray stamp brushes. But I'm going to go for one of the sprays and splatters and probably pick one of the larger ones. Choose a colour, and I don't want black, but I do want it to appear darker than the colour on the top. So I'm going to add a pixel layer that will sit over the top of this image now, and I will use the little icon down the bottom right hand side here which says add pixel layer. Make sure you have that layer selected. Make sure you have the colour you want to use chosen up here, which I've now set to a darkish grey. I have chosen the brush I want to use, and I go over here and choose the brush tool, which is already selected. Bring the brush size down somewhat, and by changing the brush size as I go across the page or across the image, I can give a somewhat different effect to the various areas. And I think that will probably do. And the last thing left to do is to shuffle the layers around so that this sunset appears to be more part of the picture. And to do that I just need to pull the ellipse image down to where it slides behind the background image, which is that one, I think. Let's just turn that on. Nope. There we go. It's just a matter of shuffling the layers around so that they are in the order that you want. And the last thing I will do is, because I've now got the original sun sitting behind there, is to turn the opacity of that down so that it blends in. I don't want to take it away completely, otherwise I'll have white lines, which I don't want. And there I have a blended public domain Japanese image with a modern, well, say modern, retro sun with a grunge effect. Not everybody's taste, but that's what I wanted to do. And this was about the process of how you take an old image, recreate a more modern image, and combine the two. So I hope you found that process useful. It can of course be applied to a great deal more than just this particular style. I've been Jane Willingale of Silverzone Printables. Till the next time, thank you for watching.